Thank you guys all for coming. The Student Bar Association has chosen Attorney General Marty Jackley for the Law School Service Award for the 2013-2014 school year. The Law School Service Award goes to an individual who has dedicated their time to the law school and to student organizations. Marty Jackley has came down numerous times every year to talk to students and inspire them to be an attorney. I'd like to now invite Professor Barron up to talk a little bit about Marty Jackley. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I couldn't be happier to be here on this occasion to share this with Marty. It's well deserved. Before I talk specifically about Marty, I want to take just a little bit of a detour, and I'll connect it back up, I promise. But I want to talk a little bit about something that's going on in my professional life and how Marty's name came up in the process. Those of you who aren't familiar, I want to talk about Tanya Aesop. Tanya Aesop was a victim of domestic violence. She twice visited Lee Bird, one of the state's top attorneys in family law, to try to get away from her abusive husband. And each time she went back home. And in one of those conversations with Lee Bird, she found out that in order to get away from her husband, she'd have to testify against him in court and to prove that he did something wrong, that he was guilty of one of the fault grounds for divorce in South Dakota. Her husband had repeatedly told her that he would not let her divorce him and that he knew that she couldn't divorce him and he would do everything he could to stop it. Tanya was not only a victim of domestic violence, but a victim of psychological control and manipulation by her husband. In 1999, the day after she went home from seeing Lee Bird, that day she was found dead at the bottom of the stairs at their house. Her husband reported the crime and indicated that reported the accident, reported the death, and indicated that she had accidentally fallen down the stairs. A jury did not believe his version, convicted him of murder, and sentenced him to life without parole, and he's serving that sentence now. I've been advocating for a change in South Dakota's fault-based laws for divorce for well over 20 years. It has never been successful in my advocation. Working toward that goal, it's met much resistance. Currently, South Dakota is one of 2 states that does not permit a unilateral no-fault divorce. The other state is Mississippi. I recently revisited this issue and wrote a My Voice column for the Sioux Falls Argus that was published. And in revisiting it, I found out that there was a study done, published in the Quarterly Journal of Economics in 2006 that indicates that for states that have adopted the unilateral no-fault divorce, domestic violence overall was reduced by 1/3, and each of those states saw a significant decrease in the amount of female homicide and female suicide. I co-authored that article with our younger daughter, who's a clinical psychologist, and as a result of the Argus publishing that, several people, including Karen Hattervig, who has been instrumental in the state's domestic violence laws back in the 80s before I got here, reached out and asked if we could present this to the legislature again, and so I have undertaken to try to do that. I thought it would be appropriate to call this effort Tanya's Law, since she is the most tangible example of the impact of a fault-based system on victims of domestic violence. Before I was bold enough to call it Tanya's Law, I thought I should talk to her family and see what her family had to say about it. So I reached out to her. She has 3 siblings, only one of which continues to live in South Dakota, Roger Beekler. He lives in Del Rapids with his wife, Faith. So I wrote a letter to Roger. About 10 days later, he contacted me, and he said, we want to come down and visit with you about this. And so on October 28th, we met here at the law school with Roger and Faith, and they very much want to pursue this in Tanya's honor. That meeting was attended by some other students, some students who are interested in this, and Representative Ray Ring, who is a Democrat from Vermilion, who just got reelected. And we had a meeting that lasted about 2 hours. And toward the end of the meeting, the topic of politics came up. educating the Beeklers on how you get bills passed and that sort of thing. And somehow or another, with Ray being a Democrat and generally a good guy, and everybody being good people, good spirit, the Beeklers, I don't believe they've ever met you, Marty, but on their own, they kept saying, "What do you think about our Attorney General? What do you think about our Attorney General?" And they said that more than once in this conference, and it was clear that for Roger and Faith Beekler, they view Marty as the rising star in South Dakota, and I do too. I've always viewed Marty as a rising star in South Dakota. Marty was reelected as Attorney General last week, receiving 82% of the vote. I couldn't find anybody who received a higher percentage in any campaign, so that's got to set some kind of record. Marty has always been a friend to me, a friend to the law school. When he was first became U.S. Attorney in 2006, I invited him to speak to my civil procedure class, and he came. He brings a message of hope. Of course, first-year students kind of live in a constant cloud of doom anyway, but his comments are usually well received by the first-year students to think that you can actually do something with this degree in addition to just being a practicing lawyer. He's come every year since then. He has spent a lot of time with students after class, talking with them in the hallways or in the classroom if it's open. I had to cut him off last year because Shane Bryant was talking to him about people who might have marijuana lawfully in Colorado and drive to South Dakota, and that conversation just wasn't going to end if I didn't. I said, well, let's move on and talk about something else. But Marty has been willing to talk to everybody, as he did today. We had a wonderful presentation afterwards, our interaction with the students after the presentation. I also want to mention that a year ago this May, Marty was the speaker for the commencement, or for the hooding ceremony for the graduates of our law school in 2013. That's an invitation that goes out only to very special people. And that was a very diverse class. And it meant a lot to me and to Marty to be invited to do that. It also meant he had to come to Vermilion twice. I think coming to Vermilion when he lived in Sioux Falls was relatively easy to work into his schedule, but coming from Pierre is a little bit more difficult, but he's never hesitated to give us the highest priority to come here and visit with us and to take care of our needs. So he had to come twice within about a month apart, and I really appreciated that. I also learned this morning that Marty is currently the president-elect of the National Association of Attorneys General. And so this is a national organization comprised of the attorney generals for all 50 states. And so this time next year, he'll be serving as the president of that organization. And I know you don't get a position like that. He also continued to be our attorney general. I know you don't get a position like that without also being willing to be of service. And so Marty is the epitome of service. He has set an example for me in my personal life that I strive to model after, to do, to follow. On every one of his visits down there, he's always talked to me privately and said, what can I do for you? What can I do for the law school? And for somebody who's had to get up early in the morning and make a trip to Vermilion that's kind of out of the way and then throw himself upon you and say, what can I do for you? What can I do for the law school? That's pretty incredible for me. So I really appreciate that. He's opened up a number of positions. He created positions that weren't there at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and right off the bat started hiring interns there. And I visited with some of those people who are now successful lawyers today, and they're incredibly grateful for the opportunity to walk into this usually very difficult to get inside of the U.S. Attorney's Office. And they were given royal treatment under Marty to see how it operated only after being a law student for 1 year or 2 years. And then when he went to Pierre, he did the same thing. And we have 4 upper-class students now with us. Some of them are here in the audience, now second-year students, who worked as interns for Marty this past summer in Pierre. And he continues that tradition. He's got a soft spot for USD Law School. It's incredible. And he never quits giving. So I'm really pleased to have you here. This has taken an incredible chunk of time out of his busy schedule. I know he flew into Sioux Falls, got there at 6:30 this morning, so he got up a little bit earlier than the rest of us today, and he's got a long day ahead of him. Marty, come up here. This is well-deserved.
Thank you guys so much, and I know that it's lunchtime, and I know that you guys have finals ahead, but I do want to take just a minute to really say thank you. Thank you to the Student Bar Association for selecting me and everybody that said such nice things. I want to thank the students. You always are so good to listening to me when I come speak to your classes, which is always an honor and something that really energizes me, and I just thank you for that. And then the faculty. You know, when I came here about 22 years ago, I was a scared little engineer that didn't know what I was doing. And what I've learned is the faculty cares so much about you and your careers, and they will stay with you throughout your careers. I mean, the teachers that I've had, the dean, they've all followed me and helped me many a time along the way. They don't forget about you. They're always there for you. So I just want to say thank you very much for all of that. It has really been easy for me to come down to the law school because people are willing to listen, and frankly, our best lawyers, our best people come from this school. And so I'm the one that should be recognizing the school, the faculty, and the students for all that you've given to us. And if nothing else, I always reflect that a senator's never called me, nor a governor's ever called me to be a judge, but you guys call me every year to judge competitions, so I appreciate that very much. But in closing, this school has done so much for me. It has really made my career to continue on in a path that I've enjoyed, and I owe that to this school. And so if there's ever anything that I can do, I'm committed to, as long as the students are willing to listen to me, to come down and be a part of watching you guys grow, and thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. We do have a reception up in the student commons where we could talk to Marty Jackley afterwards. Thank you again.